Soft-Spoken Wednesday. But I will be back next week. Now, today I'm gonna talk about the case that really kind of, I don't know, it's sad. I think I shared the Belle Gunness case some time ago. She was an evil mother that would kill her children. But this mother is a different kind of evil, and I'll explain. Everything started in Syracuse, New York. Stacy Daniels was only 17 years old at the time, and then she met her future husband, who at the time was 22 years old, and his name was Michael Wallace. They fell in love pretty quickly. They started dating, and coming from Stacy's mouth, she immediately knew that that was going to be her husband. So they got married, and in 1988, 4 years later, they had their first daughter, Ashley. Now, Ashley was described as a mommy's girl, but then in 1991, the couple had their second daughter, Bree. And Bree was, yes, you guessed it, a daddy's girl. They had a pretty cute small family, and they were not financially stable, but it was just the beginning. They were trying to make things work, and overall they were doing a pretty good job until the financial problems got worse. The marriage started to shift, and they were fighting all the time. Now, Stacy was working as a dispatcher and Michael as a mechanic, so they did not have high-paying jobs, but they were both working. They tried to make it work. They really tried, and they loved their little family, and they wanted to do the best for the girls, but it was definitely hard for them. They were young, they were struggling, they were fighting, and they were trying to parent these two girls. So all of a sudden, in the winter of 1999, near Christmas time, Michael gets sick. His symptoms are pretty weird. I mean, he's coughing, he's bloated, and he can't keep anything down. At first, it almost felt, well, for the family around him, it felt like the flu. But it stuck around. He needed to go to the doctor, but he decided that he wasn't going to. He figured that if he rested and tried to take it easy, it would go away. He told his family that if he was still sick after the holidays, he was going to go to the doctors. Sadly, Michael died before his appointment. When it was determined that he died of natural causes, specifically of a heart attack. Now, when his family heard about this, they were shocked. He was only 38 years old. He had no history of any kind of heart problems or any health problems for that matter. So they wanted to get an autopsy, but Stacy, his wife, said that there is no need for that the cause of death was determined already, and that she didn't want to go through that part, that it was so painful for her. So, of course, they put Michael to rest. Now Stacy is a single mother, and she continued to struggle, of course, because she did get a little bit of money from her husband's death from the life insurance policy, but it wasn't enough. She needed to get a better job, a better paying job, and she found it. She found a good job for an AC company, and once she was hired, it was pretty clear that she had her eye on the owner, who at the time was 45 years old, and his name was David Castor. David showed interest too. He was a single man at the time, and he decided to start a relationship with Stacy. But since she was in this bad situation, lost her husband, having two girls, I was watching this interview where they were saying that David started to give her presents. Every single day he would have something for her. He was trying to show his affection by giving stuff to Stacy. Finally, they got married in 2003. They were very happy, and they had overall a very good first year or so. But then the problem started, and according to Stacy, everything started because David didn't know how to deal with the girls. He was kind of a drill sergeant, and he wanted to tell them exactly what they needed to do and when they needed to do it, and the girls didn't care for that. So they struggled in their marriage, and when the second anniversary came around, David surprised Stacy, and he had planned a 2-week road trip as a second honeymoon. So, of course, they would have to leave the girls behind. Stacy says that, one of them is already an adult, over 18, but the other one isn't, and they were just teenagers. They were girls, and she didn't want to leave them alone. 2 weeks, it was too much. So, according to Stacy, David tells her and the girls to leave him alone and locks himself in his bedroom, or their bedroom, I should say, for the weekend. Stacy, I don't know, it's pretty weird, this part where she didn't even go inside the room for the entire weekend. She didn't go to grab clothes or medicine, glasses, a nightgown, nothing. But she spends a weekend on the couch. On Monday morning, Stacy gets up, and apparently with the same clothes, because again, she doesn't go into the bedroom to change or anything. She goes to work without even talking to her husband, actually. But when she gets there, she realizes that he's not showing up to work. And even though he's the owner of the company, he was needed, and she started to call him but got no answer. This is all according to Stacy. So she called the police. She tells them that her husband locked himself for the last day and a half, and that he didn't show up to work this morning. She told dispatcher that she tried to talk to him and call him several times at the house, but he wouldn't talk to her, and that she's afraid for his life because he has been depressed lately. So the police went to check on him. They got inside the house, and once they tried to open the bedroom door, it was stuck. It was locked from the inside. Now, they tried to get David's attention and they asked him to open the door, but all they could hear was the TV on. But David wouldn't open. So they knocked the door down and find him naked on the bed. On top of the bedside table there is brandy, cranberry juice, and I don't know if 2 or 3 glasses. One of them was full of antifreeze. That was a suicide, right? I mean, the cause of death, antifreeze, poisoning, something like that. Now, his family can't believe it. He wasn't depressed to them before, and they found it kind of interesting when they found out that that's how Stacy described David. They were struggling in their marriage, but he wasn't depressed. Now the police, when they did a search in the house, they also found a turkey baster in the kitchen garbage. A brand new one, by the way. And they tested it, and it had David DNA on the tip, and antifreeze was still in it. But on the glass of antifreeze, of course they took it in for getting fingerprints. The only fingerprints that were there were Stacy's and not David's. So how did David drink from this glass to kill himself when there's no evidence that he actually grabbed it with his own hands? Why are Stacy's fingerprints there? So it was pretty easy to determine that this was not really a suicide, and the police were thinking that this might be something that somebody staged for them to believe that he committed suicide. Now the police at that point believed that Stacy was giving David small doses of antifreeze on the days before he died, and giving him that in small amounts was going to weaken him, because he was a very strong and stronger than Stacy kind of man. So they thought that if he was too weak to fight, she could have used the turkey baster to make him drink the rest and kill him immediately. Now, this is something that they believe at the time, but they need proof. So they decide to not tell her anything of what they think. They treat her as the poor widow, but they decide to follow her and also tap her phone. When they follow her around, she visits her husband's grave frequently, and it's conveniently located by her first husband, Michael. Can you believe that? So David Castor and Michael, can't remember the last name right now, but just buy it. So it was like, well, I'll go see both of my husbands. That's pretty weird. The police exhumed Michael's body because at this point they were suspicious that maybe she had something to do with what happened to her first husband. Is this like a Black Widow kind of case? When they tested, they realized that they did in fact found traces of antifreeze in him, and they also found some kind of rat poison in him, at least traces of it. The police talked to Ashley, which is the couple's oldest daughter, and they tell her to be careful, that they believe that her mom killed her dad, and that her dad, Michael, didn't die do that. I mean, she loves her mom, their friends. She wouldn't do that to her dad, and she knew since she was a little girl that her dad died of a heart attack. So Ashley decides to call her mom, and she tells her that the police went to her college. She was crying, and she told her mom that the police accused Stacy, her mom, of killing Michael. So she warned her mother, basically. Stacy tells her, Ashley, honey, this nonsense. Come to the house. I'm gonna fix some cocktails and we're gonna relax together. This has been very, very stressful, and I'm sure it's going to clear itself out. Don't even worry about it. Now, she was 20 at the time, so not really legal to drink, but oh well. Stacy still prepared some cocktails, and when Ashley was done with class, she noticed she went to her mom's house. They talked for a bit, and then they started drinking. As she was drinking, she tasted something weird in her drink, and she asked Stacy, Mom, what is wrong with this? It tastes kind of weird. But she said it's probably too much vodka. That night, Ashley, after drinking, she says that she's not feeling very well and that she was too tired, that she drank too much. So Stacy gives her daughter a sleeping pill. I mean, I don't know, who thought that that would be a good idea? I don't know, but mixing a lot of alcohol with a sleeping pill, I wouldn't think it's a great idea, but who am I, right? Her little sister the next morning goes to wake her up because Ashley had to go to school. She's not opening the door, so she gets inside her room and starts to try to wake her up. But she quickly realizes that she's unconscious. She's actually in a coma. Now, according to her little sister Bree, this was a horrible sight. She was not only, not responsive, but also she had her eyes wide open. And she had kind of signs like poison. Her mouth was kind of moving. It was a horrible sight, especially for the little sister. That it wasn't a little girl, but seeing your sister that way, or anybody for that matter, it was pretty traumatizing. So she runs out the door, the bedroom door, and Stacy gets in. Bray grabs the phone, but Stacy takes the phone and talks. She's the one that actually talked to 911. She tells the dispatcher that her daughter took a bunch of pills. Now, at this point, Bree, the sister, she notices a piece of paper that wasn't there before. This piece of paper is a letter. It's a printed one, not handwritten. Bree still plays along and said, "Look, Mom, there's a note." Stacy immediately took it from her. The letter was apparently a confession with 700 words that claimed that Ashley killed them both. Stacy tells the dispatch that Ashley left a letter saying that now the police would know that Stacy, her mom, didn't do it. That it was her that killed her father, Michael, and her stepfather, David. And that the police now should leave her mother alone. The ambulance got there and she was still alive. She was not responsive, but she made it to the hospital. They found traces of alcohol, drugs, painkillers, sleeping pills, you name it. She had all kinds of drugs in her. But she didn't take them. But that one sleeping pill. She wakes up from her coma and she gets the interview. But she had no idea what they were asking her. They were asking her, why did you take the pills? Why did you write that letter? And she was like, I didn't take any pills. I didn't try to kill myself. And I didn't write this letter. So now the police had a little bit more on Stacy. They confiscated her computer and they found the letter in her hard drive with a timestamp. The timestamp, well, that was the time when Ashley was in class in college that day. So before even she arrived that night. At this point, they had more than enough evidence. They arrested Stacy when she was on her way to visit her daughter at the hospital. They can't charge her with Michael's death, but they can charge her with attempted murder against Ashley, her daughter, and the murder of David, her second husband. They also found a fake will of David. They knew this was fake. They did the handwriting and they sent it to experts and everything, and they quickly realized that this was something that she did in preparation for killing David. In this fake will that she wrote, apparently David wanted to exclude his son from a previous marriage and leave everything to Stacy. Very convenient. The police also looks into records of 2005, the phone records. The day that she called the police to get help with David being locked in the room, remember the day when she called 911? Well, she said she called the home all day, but records indicate she only called her home once. Now, is this another coincidence, or is she a serial killer? 5 years earlier, in 2002, Stacy's father was hospitalized. He was stable, but he took a turn for the worst right after a visit with Stacy. All of these things were piling up. There was some evidence somebody that said that when Stacy went to visit her dad, she took an open can of soda, and he wanted to drink soda, so he ended up drinking it, and he died the next day. They cremated him, and that was the end, so they really couldn't charge her with that neither. Stacy went to trial. She gets charged with the death of David and attempted murder of her daughter Ashley. She keeps saying that she didn't do it, but the prosecution knew that they encounter a lady who would kill whoever would get in the way. They said that even though they didn't charge her with Mike's death, she killed him and got away with it. So now she got, the life insurance money. She found a new victim in David, and she tried to do it again. They also stayed in court that they believed that she thought she was invincible. that she was smarter than the police and knew this time that, you know, she didn't. She didn't think that they were going to be able to put the pieces together. But when she got caught, she decided to come up with I would call it Machiavellic plan to kill her daughter, to clear herself and move on. In January of 2009, the evidence was piling and piling. In the letter that now we know that Stacy wrote, but she denies the one where Ashley was saying that she killed her dad and stepdad. In that letter, she refers to antifreeze as antifree. And coincidentally, that is how Stacy referred to the product in every interview, antifree. So it was pretty obvious that the person who really pronounced that way could have wrote it. She said that Ashley wanted to make it look like her mother wrote it. That's what any typical liar would do. Now, the defense alleged that 3 people could have done it: Bree, Stacy, or Ashley. And only one of them confessed: Ashley. So they destroyed Ashley in court, and I'm talking about her mother's lawyer destroyed Ashley in court. He used every single problem that she had with David to incriminate her, but the physical evidence was too strong. I mean, they brought things up in court that they shouldn't have. And a mother doing that, it was just the worst. Luckily, Stacy was found guilty of murder for David and attempted murder for Ashley. The judge called Stacy what Stacy did to David as premeditated torture, and almost did the same to her own daughter. The judge concluded saying that she's a danger to public, but she's also a danger to people who loved her and live with her. She was sentenced to 51 years in prison. Was sent to Bedford Hills Correctional for Women, and she's eligible for parole on 2055 when she's 87 years old. Now, this is the typical case that I find very interesting because if you've been paying attention, this is the profile of a serial killer. She was probably not called a serial killer because the magic number is 3. And she wasn't successful with her own daughter, Ashley. But really, this sounds like one of the craziest cases ever. She not only got rid of whoever was stood in the way, but taking it to the next level and using the same tactic against her daughter really was a low blow, in my opinion. It is interesting to see that kind of instinct, I guess, of trying to, keep herself afloat. Not that it's a good thing, but how crazy is that she didn't care, number one, about her daughter, sure she thought she really was invincible. I'm pretty sure she thought that she was smarter than other people and she was going to get away with it because her daughter just called her and told her that, they were suspicious of her killing both of her husbands, poisoning them. And now she's poisoning her daughter. I don't know how she did that magical math where she thought that she wouldn't look very suspicious even if Ashley passed away. I just feel like this is a horrible thing. Usually we have the killer and his or her family, and then we have the victims and his and her family. Well, it's pretty obvious that this was all in the same side. This lady took the time to get rid of the people that loved her the most. And when they disagree with her, well, she couldn't find anything to keep them around, any reason to keep them around. Psychopath. Definitely. I just can't believe that that's something that a person can do or a mother can do, and we hear about these horrible cases, but trying to frame your daughter for what you did and kill her in the meantime, well, I think that's a definition of an evil person. Now, I'm not going to talk about mother, but an evil person. Now her daughters are orphans, and of course they're older, but they lost her dad because of their mom. Now they lost her mom because she's in jail forever. I think this is the kind of mom that you want to stay away from, though. I don't know how you would trust anything from this lady. But how sad is it that the people that is supposed to love you and be there with you and protect you from everyone and everything in this world that can harm you is the one that wants to take your life away? How stupid did she think that the police was? How stupid did she think that their kids were? Narcissistic personality, maybe. I think that's what gave her away. Just the thought that she could get away with it when they were right behind her, when they knew that something was wrong, when they realized that things were not adding up and that a bunch of strange things were going on. If you count the father, that they just couldn't prove that she was the one that killed him with that soda because there was no body to test. But I mean, Ashley would have been her fourth victim. A serial killer, really? A serial killer that takes the time to get rid of people that is part of her own family. I am pretty sure that she had something against her dad. But really, I mean, I can sit here and criticize my dad for a few minutes, and he's a great guy. But I know that there are other families that, maybe they had some kind of abusive relationship. Not the silly thing that I would sit here and talk to you about my dad when I was growing up. So I understand the difference between not agreeing with your dad or not liking your dad or not liking what he did and having an abusive father. So maybe the dad was abusive. But so what? Can't be going around the world killing people because you feel like they've been abusing you. And how unlucky would she have to be in order to find two men that abused her enough that she wanted to get rid of them? And then the daughter, that's when you know that something was really wrong inside her head. Again, I think in the cases where we have the families, the victim family and the killer's family, it's kind of a confrontation. But how can you do that in this case when the victims and the killer share blood and is lying in court to pull you down as a daughter? It's out of this world crazy. So I'm glad that she finally was put away. I do believe, like the judge, that she will continue to do it if she's allowed to be out. And I don't think I'd ever trust her, even if she was 87 years old when she got out in Pearl. Sorry. Not the kind of guy I'd like to be around. What do you think about this case? Do you think that she had some kind of a breakdown? Maybe a mental illness? And when she got to the breaking point, she would go crazy and do these things? Or do you think, as I think, that she was plainly a narcissistic psychopath that just didn't care for anybody but herself? Do you think there's a gene or that there's something that these kind of cases, as mothers trying to kill or killing their own kids, do you think there's something physically wrong with that people that make that choice? I'd love to know what you think. Thank you for being here, guys. I hope that you join me on Sunday for the podcast and the #1 killer in the US. This is a serial killer, a contagious serial killer that I will be talking about this Sunday. I hope that you join me. If you don't have iTunes or Google Play, you can download the Stitcher app and you can listen to the podcast there. It's under the name The Mystery Theory. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will have a new Patreon video on Tuesday with something that I've been researching and I can't wait to share with you guys. So please stay tuned. Thanks, guys. See you soon.